Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, where business insight meets startup innovation. And now, please give a warm welcome for your host, Mr. Brian Sparks!
Yes, thank you, Brian. I love when you light up and that music goes on.
Yeah,
Where's my
I don't know
applause?
what I was doing. I think that, I don't know where my applause was.
Yeah,
there they are.
There's
just
Mom.
a little behind,
Yeah.
on a 7-second delay. We import them from Chicago.
I love it. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to Silicon Valley Impact. I'm your host, Brian Sparks. The purpose of this show is to have honest conversations about what it takes to build great businesses and communities so that you can make an impact within your own. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's great. That's a great mission, Brian.
Does that have a little ring
It really
to
resonates with me.
Yeah.
I could really feel it.
I'm still reading it off the script. All right, I'm going to close that for now.
I think that we're all going to be really enjoying all of what you just said.
Well, speaking of enjoyment, two things. One, we have Delya back in the house today. Delya, good to see you.
Hi, same here.
Yeah.
Same? Mine are
Now
coming
they're
from LA.
awake. They got coffee finally.
Yeah, I'm taking that personal. It was me. But, okay. All right. They're warming up. So, all right. With that being said, I want to talk a little bit about the Venture House, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We had a great dinner. We had a dinner with probably, what was it, Brian, about 20, 30 investors upstairs.
Yeah.
It was
really
kind of
really good food, by the way, too.
Yeah, impromptu.
Big shout out to Gardenia here in Los Gatos.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And then we had probably 175 attendees show up for the event downstairs. A big sponsor, and thank you to Delya being part of that. That was amazing. Mm-hmm. But we're going to be doing it again February 25th this month. So look for those announcements coming out. But enough about the Venture House, which was awesome. Delya, let's get right into it.
I know. I miss this space. I feel like we skipped a month with the holidays and everything. So I'm glad to be back. We have a very interesting lineup going on today and as well as coming up month. Just a reminder, this is a partnership segment. So if anybody is interested in learning more about partnerships, what that means, and by partnerships, we mean business to business, not personal. Don't ask me about that one. So we're going to be doing every month an event. We have 3 so far from last year that you can definitely visit. We're kind of talking about both the kind of the history and the future of the partnerships with various people who are actually in it, right? Doing it in various companies. We have 2 of them today. And today we're going to focus a little bit more on the history and the future of what it means in partnerships. Again, really targeting towards, I guess, startups who are just kind of coming up and trying to maybe partner with larger companies. Also investors, looking at who they're investing, and if they don't have a partnership strategy, that might be a question as to why. So it's going to be a little educational and a little fun, and we're going to cover a lot of cool topics.
So what I like about this topic is it's a very strategic conversation. It's not just like, hey, you want to be friends and do something together? No, it's very intentional in terms of scaling a business. I love what
Partner Utopia?
Partner? No.
Oh.
He was, oh my God, he's with Opus Clips. Please help me. Franz. Jeez, Franz. I'm sorry if you're listening to this right now.
That's one of those monumental ones. Let's go ahead and run that sentence over again, Brian, and I'll cut this out.
Edit it. But no, Franz was in here, and I will never forget what he said.
Hold on, you got to run that sentence back, please.
Well, I forgot what I said.
Oh,
I was
okay.
All right, we're doing it messy here, so we'll just press on. Franz was in here, and he was talking about partnerships being a unique selling advantage when they're done right. It's not just like, hey, we're going to be throwing an event together. We're going to be doing. There is a unique selling advantage by 2 companies, 2 startups, individual, whatever level. And so that's why we're kind of talking about it here on this show, because whether you're an early stage startup or you're a later stage company, partnerships needs to be thought of throughout that thread. Is that right?
That's correct. And in fact, the thing that we're hoping to change, especially with the shows and with a lot of visibility onto partnerships, is there's a lot of that, hey, let's buddy up together and let's see what happens, right? That's not it, right? So the way that I define a partnership, it has to be trackable, it has to be repeatable, it has to be programmatic. And it is like partially being in any other department, right? Marketing, sales, and product, the key departments who contribute to the revenue of the company, they can't just all get together and throw an event and then go home and call it a day and call it a win, right? Just like partnerships, we don't get to do that too. There's a lot of art that goes into and creativity, but at the end of the day, nobody gets paid for effort. We only get paid on results.
I like that. Well, let's bring Gary and Ron into the conversation. To both of you, thanks for being here today. Really
Thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we get down the rabbit hole here, let's do a quick introduction for our audience. Gary, we'll start with you.
Sure. I'm Gary Batroff. I'm SVP of Sales and Partnerships with an AI text analytics company called Thematic.
Nice. Thank you. Ron?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ron Piovesan. I've been doing partnerships for, 20, 25 years. Currently, I lead the tech partner team at Okta. We are identity security, identity management, and we have a bunch of tech partners, and that's my team.
I love it. So with all this years of experience, Delya, where do we begin with this? Because again, we want to unpack how the shift in partnerships is happening, and we got the experience here to tell us all about it. But where do we dive in?
So let's actually dive in with Ron here for 1 second, right? So because your role is isolated specifically to technology partnerships, and that
Isolated is such a tough word.
Oh, sorry. Okay, how would you describe
that's
it?
true. We focus on tech partners.
Specialized.
Yeah, specialized.
Specialized.
Laser focused.
Laser focus. But that in itself is part of the evolution, because traditionally speaking, partnerships were more about resellers, right? So I have a product, I have software, hardware, whatever, and I need somebody to get this product in the hands of a customer. I need them to do inventory. I need them to do billing, financing, whatever it is, right? So that was what traditionally people think of channel partnership. That's still happening a lot, right? And I think, Gary, part of your job is to also incorporate those type of partners. So a lot of companies are still very much relying on resellers. It's morphing a little bit, but it is in a sense like this. I have a product, somebody resells it to the customer, blah, blah. The evolution that started happening, I think with the introduction really of cloud that then led to the blow up of the SaaS, is all of a sudden you started having companies creating very specialized technologies, right? I just do this thing so well. To the customer, that meant that they had more innovation at a much lower cost, right? And a much easier functionality and usability. But at the end of the day, a lot of SaaS startups, especially when they're starting out, they solve a part of the problem. So what a customer is then left with, innovation, a better cost, and all this other wonderful things, but they're also left with having to buy 20 different things and integrate them all together. This is where the tech partnerships, people like, what Ron is doing now, the job that I did for 15 years became very important, is because now these SaaS companies, and not just SaaS, a lot of other ones as well, the technology partnership is between two companies who have no monetary exchange of each other, right? They're solving the same problem in a different way for the same customer. They're part of the same buying cycle. They're being bought together or around the same time. It requires sometimes actually native integration into each other. Anything from actually being integrated to just sold together to marketed together, that is a technology partnership that is different from channel.
So it sounds like you wear a lot of hats. There's a lot of moving parts. So if that's the meat and potatoes, let's get into kind of like what were the ingredients, and how would you, both of you, define your experience over the years of what partnership is? If we can start kind of like a defining term and then boil down to these channels and these strategies, where do we begin with that? Ronald?
Sure. Yeah, I could start. So I've been partners for a long time. I would say the way things started, or the way I think partnerships sort of came into the market, was very much marketing based, where you kind of wanted two partners to throw an event, put together a press release, maybe a webinar or something. And there was a lot of the term, and you guys probably remember this term too, Barney partnerships. I love you, you love me, we're going to hang out together.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways partnerships did get kind of a bad name. It was just like a bunch of guys that like to go out and drink beers together and call themselves a partner. Through kind of what Delya highlighted, the disciplines evolved over the course of the past couple of years, 15 years or so, where that notion has happily gone away of just like the Barney partnerships. And people are like really focusing on what is the value that a partnership can drive. Sometimes it is, a sales engagement. sometimes, and this is my world, and maybe we'll dive into it a little bit. It is about creating new solutions and new innovations and new integrations, where the integration itself is the product that you're beginning to bring to market. And so through that process, you're moving away from these binding partnerships, and you're focusing on, okay, what's a value proposition we can build? Okay, once we understand that, what's the go-to-market associated with that? Okay, once we understand that, what's the post-sales support? And you get this like huge continuum of activities that you are constantly engaged with your partner, from top of funnel lead gen through sales all the way to post-sales support.
There sounds like there needs to be somebody in this role that is really harmonized with those you're going into partnership with.
Yes.
From each other's value to the market, to strategy, to deployment, on up to culture. I mean, there's just so much to consider. What else do we need to consider in term, Gary, when we're looking at a high level definition of what partnership is?
Well, I think going back to what Fran said in one of your previous sessions, is you're trying to create some unfair competitive advantage between yourself and another company to take more market share, right? And so there's a revenue component to that. There's also some alignment of culture that you need to see. You also need to have a common ideal customer profile, right? So you want to be selling to the same people. If you're not selling to the same people, you're probably going to have a really hard time making some traction. I think also there are ways in which you can build some creative better together stories between yourself and your partner. So that could be a joint solution that's two technologies, that's a 1 + 1 = 3 result that the market loves. Or it could be you're partnering with a service company that does a service add-on to the technology that you provide and makes it much easier for the market to understand and buy that product.
So, Delya, pick it up here for us. It sounds like when you go into a partnership, so if I'm head of partnership for X company and I want to go in with a partnership with Okta or Partner Utopia, number one, I have to do an ideal partnership profile, possibly. Like, do we align? Because eventually now our partnership is going to align with a certain overlap in customer. And so now along that entire journey from idea to market, there needs to be back to this rhythm. So there's a lot going on here in terms of alignment. And what we're going to eventually get to is the way that we approach partnerships 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now there's a contrast in that. But I think it's still really about this alignment. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so first, the alignment has to be unlike other departments. So let's just think about it departmentally, right? And let's focus on the main ones that are adding revenue. You have sales, product, and marketing. You can argue that maybe finance, operations, but I think those are more supporting roles. I don't know, it's zero value.
Don't even mention legal.
And someone who's on partnership has to see these, right? All these parts.
So partnerships, the funny thing that's happening is partnerships are actually starting to create its own department. So traditionally speaking, partnerships were reporting, and still in a lot of companies, and maybe in a lot of companies, this will continue to happen, but they are part of the marketing, sales, or product. In some, they're starting to kind of become its own department, but even when that happens, when it's traditionally will become its own department, like CTO, right? All of a sudden that wasn't a role, now it's a role. Chief Partner Officer, CPO, wasn't a thing, now it's a thing. But even when that department is isolated, I hope what doesn't happen is when you partner for the purpose of partnering, you are on a bad road, which is funny that you said ideal partner profile, because I actually have at Partner Utopia, we have a very different view on this, is that you don't actually start with ideal partner profile. An ideal partner profile shows itself once the partner has proven to be ideal. Otherwise, it's just guesswork up until that point. But if you're
give me a little insight on what that means. I mean, if I go out looking for the right partnership and I'm looking for matches, you're saying I've missed something.
Yes, you didn't start early enough. What you have to be looking for, and this is going back to, you have to, even if you are your own department and you're not reporting into sales, marketing, or product, you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do for those teams? And sometimes, and therefore, what is important for the company?
Oh, okay, hold on. Before we started the show, Ron, you were talking about bring value to get value.
Yeah.
Is this what she's saying here?
I think so. I think it's a form of that. So I would say, like, One, I completely agree with you. If you're partnering for partnering, if you're going out to like, I'm going to find a partner, you're asking the wrong question. Mm-hmm. The question you need to be asking is, what is the customer value that I'm providing, and which other company can provide that customer value? So for me, it always starts with the use case. What is the use case we're trying to solve? And it could, for the customer, not my use case, not the partner's use case, not anybody's use case. I need to hear it from the customer. Okta, why aren't you partnering with XYZ? Together, you guys solve this for me. Well, I don't know. Maybe I should be partnering with XYZ. Mm-hmm. So it starts with the use case, whether it's a security use case, a productivity use case, an automation, an AI use case. If we have the use case written down on paper and we know exactly what it is we're going to market together, that's when the conversation starts.
So I'm hearing you have to have a massive skill set in empathy, where you kind of reverse engineer from that use case and see if it aligns. And you're also doing that with others within the company. Gary, pick up from there. Is this where you begin from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you approach a partner, you should always have a solid hypothesis about what that use case is and why they would want to partner with you, because they probably get approached by dozens of companies every week. Mm-hmm. And some of the stories are convincing, some of them are not. And so you got to build a pretty convincing story, because you may only get one bite at the apple, right? So they may not want to have 5 meetings with you. They may only give you 1 meeting. And so you got to make sure you put your best foot forward. Don't approach them until you've got a pretty baked idea of what that joint solution is and how the two of you can create competitive advantage in the market. So I definitely would start with a situation like that. And then also try to figure out what's in it for them. If there's nothing in it for them and it's only going to benefit you, they're probably not going to lean in.
100%. Like if you, I don't know how many meetings I've had where somebody calls me up and they're like, hi, and they're like, feature. How do you want to partner? And I'm like, I have no idea. I have not thought about feature. I have zero idea. One bite at the apple.
Forgot to even mention their name, right?
Yeah.
Like tell you who they are.
They just come in, they're like, here's everything we do. How do you want to partner? I'm like, I have no idea. Zero idea.
It's worse than that. It's here's everything that we do. Can you please give us all of your customers?
Yeah. You're like, oh, sure, no problem.
Okay, so no matter where we look at in terms of the startup or even small business landscape, people fall in love with their ideas. Yeah. And realizing that really the success of their idea, their partnership, their venture, whatever it may be, begins with the end user, not how much you love your idea. If you can bring that value proposition, and in this case, we're talking about the value proposition is 2 organizations coming together to 3 to 10x that solve.
Yep.
And it's no surprise where you're talking about now all these channels, all these value adds are being kind of juggled within your roles today in order to upscale that value add. Am I summarizing it?
A partner manager on average does 17 different jobs. Yeah, that's a typical thing. Yeah, but so I mean, you have to constantly keep asking yourself, what is the goal within the company, and the company goal should be the goal to the customer, right? The one other thing that I would argue, and this is a bit of a newer notion, and we ourselves are actually testing it, right? So because we have to train AI how to do a lot of this thinking, not for the partner managers, but together with the partner managers, is importantly, what resources does your company, like, just because I want to go, I don't know, buy a $10 million house, do I have $10 million is a question that is also needs to be asked. And I think that's what maybe sometimes partner managers, especially I would say maybe in a smaller company when you're starting to do an outreach versus a bigger company when you're just dealing with an inbound, because that's another 2 different kind of functionalities. I'd like to talk about that next. But if you're doing an outreach as a partner manager, you're asking yourself what's important for the company and what are the resources that we can realistically or that we're willing to invest in order to make that partnership work. Going back into that give to get, knowing that in order to partner, nobody actually has to partner with each other, right? It's not like, it's not really a do or die kind of need. You have to sell, you have to market, you have to create a product. Partnership becomes an enhancement to one of those 3. And if you're going to enhance one of those 3 or all of those 3 departments, are they all lined up to actually help you, right? And add value to their departments.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So access to resources.
What's a resource?
Yeah, what's a resource? Yeah.
You guys have resources? I didn't even...
You and your clone.
I know. It's like, wow, that's cool. I want to work for you guys.
So you're talking about bringing together potential resources in order to Am I hearing you right? In order to accelerate business.
You don't always have it, and I think that's another shift that's happening within the partnerships. The importance of the partnerships and the fact that we got really, really good at tracking value, away from the Barney partnerships to a point where we can stand up in front of the CEO and account every dollar that they've invested in a partnership team and what we brought back. I think those tools, that technology, that discipline, to your point, is elevating this whole role up. So now the resources are becoming available, but again, I think you still, just because they're available doesn't mean you should be using them. Like at the end of the day is, if I spend 12 months on developing this partnership, which departments have I helped? All, some, and how? And can they all speak to that?
I mean, I consider my role, like, and the role of my team too, as kind of like internal diplomats, to be honest. So like we have a thesis for a partner, and then we have to convince other teams to join us on this route. So
okay, real quick, tell for our audience and me, what is a partner thesis?
Okay, so Google Workspace. Actually, this is actually kind of an interesting one because it's not directly in our space. So we have a thesis that if you adopt, so we do cloud identity, okay, and we have a thesis that if you adopt cloud productivity, you need cloud identity. Right, so we have a great partnership with Google. We have a great partnership with Google Workspace, and the thesis is if you're moving this wholesale to the cloud, and you're going like full cloud productivity, cloud email, all the great Google Workspace functionalities, you're going to want cloud identity. That's a thesis.
Okay,
right. So right there. So we have the thesis, and then we have to. Then we literally shop it around internally. Hey, product, we know you're working on a ton of stuff. We think that this adds more value to the company than what you're currently working on. We need you to help with the integration. Marketing. We know you've got a lot of marketing going on. We think that this actually will drive more leads, more qualified leads than any of the other marketing you're doing. Come along with us. Sales. We know you have a couple of sales plays in your head. We want you to talk to your Google Workspace rep because we think there's actually more value if you work with that rep than if you work with anybody else. That's us taking a thesis and, like I said, through shuttle diplomacy, taking it to different parts of the organization.
It's an internal entrepreneurship role of influence, right? So no one has to do anything that you want them to do. You don't have the authority to force them to do any of it. And so you have to convince them that it's in the best interest of their role as well as the company. And so that's a key challenge that all partner managers have to face.
Talk a little bit more about that entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Because what I hear you saying is you have this idea, and now you have to sit around or talk with others. How do I hammer this out so it relates to all these different departments or these customers?
I mean, you start with the customer, go to the use case, figure out whether it's technically feasible with your engineering team, what you've thought up and dreamt up. Is it even doable? Figure out, whether it's a priority for your company, right? How can I get mind share within my company for this idea and above all the other ideas that are floating out there? And then on the opposite side, when you're working with a partner, you've convinced them that they want to partner, but how do you get your partnership, get mind share within their company too? So you're really kind of forming lots of matches at the end of the day between your salespeople and their salespeople. And so you've got to bring those two groups of people together that normally aren't wired and naturally want to work together. It's a lot of, you've heard of the lone wolf salespeople.
Yeah.
They're not the easiest ones to pull into partnerships. And so you need to find out where your points of resistance are and where people are pulling you in and move towards those and influence the organization in that way. And I think eventually you'll end up pushing the entire company into an adjacent or a different strategy than what plane that they were on before.
Wow, it has me thinking about how well versed you must be as a communicator, because to say, hey, here's my idea, and then frame it a certain way for this department, reframe it a little bit for this department, hey, this idea looks like this, but hey, over here, it feels like this or sounds like this. That has to be stressful because you could be saying the exact same thing, but using different frames.
We actually, I don't know if you get, like, we call it impersonation, right? So partner manager has to wake up, and depending on who we're presenting to, we have to take on their identity, their need, their problems, their resources. So if I'm presenting to a marketing person, right, marketing department, completely different story, right, than if I'm presenting to a sale. Yeah.
So we want the imposter syndrome. Is that where you're going with
Yes,
this?
exactly.
We need that.
Yeah, because otherwise we don't survive. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But okay, so but to that point, let's touch kind of like Gary's starting with you, because again, different, and then Okta. Talk about some ways, and I think what the audience would like to hear is then what's the importance. Let's just talk about the bottom line, like in the forms of actual examples or the overall. Like what did the partnerships do? So without partnerships, it could have been this. With partnerships, it ended up being this. Like just a very kind of A/B comparison here. I
mean, you really should expect to have at least 25% of your revenue coming from partners.
Okay, so that's pretty standard still.
And I think, if you look at companies like Microsoft, it's like 95% or 98%. So I think 25% should be the beginning goal. You won't get there like right away, but I think revenue for sure. I think one thing that's kind of overlooked that has worked out for me once is that your partners sometimes could be your exit strategy. And so every startup should have an exit strategy. And sometimes your partner might be the one that wants to acquire you if you've built a great 1 + 1 = 3 solution with them.
Yeah, I agree.
So
that's my strategy.
I don't want to go too far past that, because the second our audience hears that, our startup, they're going to want to know, well, tell me more. Why should I be thinking about, so just to double click on it a little bit more, why should an early stage startup think about partnerships in terms of an exit strategy, and how can that help them look at their company from a bigger perspective?
I have kind of a love-hate perspective with that. So, I see the point, and I understand that I think a lot of companies do build to a larger partner, right? And that could work. I'm not saying that's an immaterial strategy. That could work. But as a partner as somebody in partnerships, if I get a sense that you're that's not my role, right? That's not my goal. My goal is to build solutions, sell product, solve the customer problems. If you're coming to me as an entree into the M&A team, I'm not going to be super interested in chatting with you. That's too far outside my role. Even though I'm a little different, because I actually do sit in the corp dev team. So I actually sit alongside the M&A team and the investment team and the strategy team. We're not part of product or marketing or anything. But again, it's just have empathy with your audience. If you're talking partnerships, and don't try to sell your company. If that's your kind of the long-term strategy is to sell to a bigger company that you're partnering with, just know who you're talking to and when you're talking to them, and just have the right conversation at the right time.
I love this idea of thinking from the end. And then Delya, I love this idea, because when you're in sales or you're on the stage, say for example, you take the stage as a presenter, there is a next step. There is a call to action. There is a second conversation that you want to have. So your presentation or your pitch or your conversation is going to be geared towards, I'm having this conversation because there's money, support, or reputation on the line, right? So I'm asking you to partner for money purposes, or this is an educational purposes for your own reputation. And then there's others as well.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah, and so now I'm hearing this idea, well, maybe there's this opportunity for merger. And whether it's a merger of two large companies, or if you're a Dallas Mavericks and a LA Lakers fan, there's this merger of some sort of vision for the future. The point being is, whether it's a sale or a giant merger, there's always this thinking from the end, and it kind of tie it together. Again, my mad scientist idea is this importance of use case. How is it going to be used?
I would still, for the purpose of the audience, kind of go with Ron, what you just said, right? Focus on the end customer. So we do have quite a bit of startups that are using our platform, and we really start to dig into what are you guys doing? They're like, well, I really want to be sold to that company, and they're trying to manufacture a partnership where one should not exist, right? It should just straight up be I'm actually building. Yeah. I'll give you an example. It is a devices company. I'm not going to discuss it. So it makes a device, and it's a smaller version of it, slightly different. There's very very large companies that make similar device. So that person coming on a market is essentially going to compete with the larger ones, but he wants to get acquired by them because otherwise it's operational, whatever. So he was trying to manufacture a partnership with them to a point where both our software and then we kind of came in and we're like, hey, this is not going to work. You just need to look at them as your competitor that will acquire you for the purpose of getting your IP or taking out the market or whatever.
Consolidating the market, yeah.
Right, but a partnership with them on day one is not going to work. Let me give you another example where the partnership will work for a startup. Let's take my startup, for example. We are essentially creating a product that does not exist in the market, and what we're not creating is a part that does. Like, so parts of what is CRM, let's say Salesforce, right? So Salesforce already has very good functionality around certain things, especially for partners. We're not going to do that, right? We can, but the market doesn't need us there. There's Salesforce, there's a million other CRMs, right? The market does not need us there. That problem has been solved. It's good, it's cheap, it's good enough. So our strategy is to say we're going to create around those features for where the market does need us. We're going to go partner with Salesforce because we are adding more value, more customers, more whatever. And if an acquisition happens, then an acquisition happens because they want to expand their sales. So it's just depending on what kind of startup you are, right? But at the end of the day, always still land with a customer, right? Like, what does the customer need you to do, right? And isolate your competition acquisition versus a partnership acquisition into two buckets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead. No,
I was going to say, you don't want to lead with, you should buy us.
Yeah.
Because smart partner managers like Ron will sniff that out right away and ask you, if you could have the next meeting in July. So, you can't lead with that. I think it's just, if you're going to have an exit strategy, it could have many different components to it. One of it could be IPO, and just one of them could be through partnership. So it's just to put it on your map, not so much to make it your focus.
I think we're going to go on a break for
examples.
a second. We're going to go on a break real quick here, but I'm interested in maybe helping those who come with an idea, because whether they know it or not, they may be approaching it wrong. They're saying, here's feature, as opposed to pain. Here's your pain. How can I? Maybe they don't know any better. So maybe we can, on our way back, we'll talk about how to reframe that, because it's not that their intentions are off, but the way we're communicating it is off. With that being said, Brian, let's go to break. All right, we're back and we're talking with Delya, Gary, and Ron. Before we went on the break, we were talking about how it's important for those who may be listening, startups, others who are going into partnership, how to approach the deal or the conversation. A lot of mistakes made in terms of approaching a potential partner is saying, well, here's my value. But what we're hearing here today, and we've heard across many conversations when it comes to partnerships and startups and good communication, is starting with the end in mind. What pain are you solving? I mean, Delya, I truly believe that entrepreneurship, startup, is built on pain. Right? As dark as that may sound, but it's true. It's built on pain. And someone comes along and says, I can solve that. Now, Ron, Gary, when you're hearing ideas, you come across this. People come with feature. How can we start to reposition the conversation so that partnerships are potentially accelerated and we can start communicating on the same level, that it's about use case, it's about solving a problem? Where do we begin with that interpersonal problem?
I think one of the things that I look for first is, have they solved it for anyone else? Or are they just coming to me to help solve their problem for them? I think there's a lot of early stage startups out there who don't know exactly how your solution fits with their solution. And so they're kind of throwing spaghetti against the wall, trying to see, okay, how does that sound? What if we did this, or what if we did that? And it can get a bit exhausting. And so you early on try to make a judgment as to go, okay, how far away am I from the solution with this particular potential partner? And is this going to be 10 meetings or 2 meetings? And can I, afford to invest all that time? And so if you are that one that's doing the approach, like I said before, you need to have a pretty well-baked idea to make sure that the person you're providing your idea to doesn't feel like it's a 10 meeting opportunity. And so you need to show them that there's a path that could be found earlier.
Ooh, I like that. Finding a path. All right. Ron, anything to add to that?
Well, I would just say it's the unfortunate truth is almost like I'm kind of the last person you want to talk to. Because if you're coming to me with an idea, and even if it's like super well baked and it's, we've got it in the market, you're going to come to me with the idea and I'm like, all right, great. Sounds like a great idea.
Is it implementable? Is it doable?
Crickets.
Who wants it?
But if a customer, what I mean by like I'm the last person you want to talk to the customer first. Mm-hmm. So if a customer gives me a call, or a customer gives a salesperson a call and the salesperson gives me a call, which is the more common route, or sometimes I get it directly, or an SC or a customer CSM, if they give me a call and they say like, look, I've got a bunch of customers, 2, 3, whatever, that are implementing, that have Okta implemented with this other partner, we need to start talking to them because this is providing huge value add. That's when I'm interested in the conversation. You as a startup coming to me with your idea, yeah, I'll be polite, but a customer coming to me with an idea, I'll be a lot more attentive.
So I got a quick question to kind of tie a couple shows together, and then I'm going to punt it over to you, Delya. Last week we had Essie Mawadi on our show, and she's a GP for Mighty Capital. And one of the advantages that she has is she has access to a ton of program managers, project managers that have eyes on problems. Now, if a startup is looking to do partnerships, now her strategy is to partner with them, with the project program managers. Who does a startup go to if they're looking, or if they feel they're solving a problem? Do they, try to get the CEO online? Do they dial up the secretary? What
is this
it?
a plug from me?
Right, there you go.
Yeah. What is the path? Talk about pathways and who to talk to first.
Yeah.
Where does that begin?
Well, that's the art, right? And sometimes it could take several months just to answer that question, which is, the answer to that question is not complicated. It just takes a long time to sometimes research it, right? Which again, a little bit of a plug for the platform that we're doing is we're basically making that information available in click of a button. But the answer is it depends. And because it depends, doing it manually can take months. It depends. First, some companies out there, you have to look at what is that company's DNA in partnering. Is this a company with a proper program where you first have to have like a profile, like you have to go sign up, you got to do this, you got to get a partner number, you got to get an ID, you have to go through some sort of an application layer. And a lot of larger companies, because so many partners are coming at them, actually are very good at creating programmatically a way to manage all the inbounds, right? So if you're going to be part of the inbound, that's not a bad thing, but there's probably some sort of a path that gets you there, right, without a dedicated partner manager. And then once you're in and you're starting to provide value, and usually that value is measured in the amount of customers you either brought or were able to enable, or some sort of a technical thing, so every company has it, then you get an assigned partner manager. So definitely do that if you're a startup. But at the same time, what we do is we call these key stakeholders. So if you're trying to partner with Okta and you are a database company or a mini Google Workspaces, like a project management company, go find somebody at Okta who cares about that. It could be a technical SC, it could be a particular team, sales team that's selling into a customers where your solution would matter. It could be some sort of a program manager or a product manager. So go build a list of other key stakeholders and figure out a way how to reach out to them.
So you really got to mine that company, because not all processes are the same.
Ask your customers. I don't know why so many people don't do that. Just every time you're selling your product, ask your customers, what is it that you're buying around me? And if they say Okta, cool, introduce me to your Okta salesperson. Boom. Done. Like, you don't even need to do anything else.
100%. Just like, who do you have me integrated with? Like, I am the startup. Who do you have me integrated with? Great. Introduce me to every single contact you have at every single one of those companies. Ideally, like, come in and like vouch for it. Say like, like, this is a great integration. I'm glad we're doing it. Blah blah blah. And then that's how you get through it. And you got to play by the rules and not play by the rules. Mm-hmm. You got to play by the rules in that everyone's got a partner program, and you got to go through the steps and join the partner program. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then you got to kind of be a little bit creative, but like, okay, I'm in the program. How do I get to that salesperson? Mm-hmm. How do I get to that product person? How do I get to that SE? And how do I get them to then talk to the partner person? So you got to play by the rules, but not entirely.
Yeah. So always like asking a customer for introductions into the partners is a slam dunk because it is in customers' best interest as well. Because remember, earlier point is then the customer, if you end up working with all their entire ecosystem that they have to buy to solve one problem, that's easier for them. So I've never heard a customer say no to that request, but I have heard startups for some reason being hesitant to ask that. Now, a red flag is that if you want to partner with somebody and you're like, but I don't have a customer to ask that question, well, then maybe you're a little bit too early for that partnership, and maybe that partnership is not really going to give you anything you want yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the strategy of this.
I was going to, it just reminded me something too of sometimes we get approached by companies that want to integrate with us, and if we have a customer that's interested in that, we ask that customer if they'll co-develop it with us. And if you can get that customer to co-develop it, it's a validation to the partner that, hey, I have a customer that's willing to invest time into this because it's important to them and they're going to get value out of it. Mm-hmm. So I would look for something like that.
Yeah, completely.
Actually, let's tie that in back to Gary. So you sit in a unique role where you have responsibility for both services and technology. So give me an example where those two are separate things, they're just completely separate, and when the triangle comes together.
Yeah, I'd say we all serve the same ICPs, right? So we all serve professionals.
Define ICPs, just in case, for others.
For
Brian.
Ideal customer profile. And so we're all serving, in for my company, Thematic, we're serving people who do market research or customer insights, data analytics, or customer experience. And so those might be professional services companies like market research firms like, say, Ipsos or Kantar, or they could be technology companies like Medallia, my old company. So all of these companies serve the same customers, and they have common interest to solve for improving customer experience for that end customer. And so sometimes it requires a technology solution, sometimes it requires a service solution, and sometimes it's all three.
Yep.
Love it. I just kind of like got taken away by, again, the strategy and the positioning of moving an idea forward is really an art. And what you guys have done over the years.
Craft.
Yeah. But okay. And so because it's become this, where there's so many channels, there's more of a team now approach. What do you think has been the biggest contrast or differentiator to what partnerships was 15 years ago to where it is now and potentially where it's going?
I mean, I love your notion, Gary, of like the network of partners, because now we're taking partners to like every part of the business. So like, coming back to my world with technology partners, we're creating solutions, once we've gone through the whole, customer validation, as we've already discussed, and we're bringing it to the service providers. Mm-hmm. We're bringing it to the SIs. We're bringing it to the resellers, because they have a lot of customer relationships. They are looking to sort of upgrade their own selling and not just be like a product, like a SKU seller or a box seller, something they're trying to sell the full end-to-end solution. Right. And we're coming with a very distinct point of view. They're saying like, look, if you want to solve this problem, here's our company and 3 companies that all work together. The solution's been validated. You can take that to the market, and we're doing like enablement with that partner, whether it's an SI or a reseller or a service provider, and they're then taking that to their customers. So it is becoming this team sport where we're just like looping in every single part of the organization, creating this customer experience, whether it's a marketing experience, a solution experience, a sales experience, and then bringing it to the customer through every single channel we know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the reason for that, I think, is happening is reselling. So past versus future, right? So reselling used to make a lot of money and a lot of companies came up. Now, Amazon was notorious for being just brutal and cutting the reselling margins down to like 2%. So reselling used to make up to 40, now it's 2. And that's the world that a lot of resellers are, either they're not surviving, or what they're doing is they're pivoting to more solution, more services oriented type of people, which is again driving the the need for the ecosystem, right? Because what are they going to solution around, right? If I'm only giving them my one product to sell, there's nothing to really solution. And a lot of the companies out there, SaaS is self-served, so the reseller really, like, if reselling margins are not enough and I cannot create a service, they're not just going to be interested in you. So in order for you to make yourself interesting more to these service providers, the Accentures and the mini Accentures of the world, you have to have an ecosystem around you, because they need to go create something around it that they can at least make 60% margin on their services.
So let's talk a little bit about the ecosystem, because I'm hearing this from you, Ron, where you have this growing population of need for other partners.
Yep.
What is the biggest pain point generally for someone in partnerships? Earlier, you kind of said resources. Who gets resources?
Well, I mean, like our team. So my team is, I think, like 8 people, and we're small, kind of by design, like to the point of resources, because we're expected to be a high leverage team, an influence team. I think you used that term, Gary, where we have to like influence product and influence, sales and marketing and so on. So, I mean, I think that that's the challenge, but we have finite resources. We are a highly leveraged team, but I think one of the biggest pain points is kind of what we've been talking about, is like, do you go broad with partners, or do you go deep with one or two? And I'm seeing that pendulum go back and forth. It used to be, I would say in my experience, it used to be very broad. You wanted to have as many partners as you can. You have one of a big ecosystem. That's now being automated, Delya, to your point. So now, my pain point is like, how do we go really deep with a couple of really select partners? And one thing that I talk to my team a lot about is, just like we talk about a sales pipeline, or just like we talk about a product roadmap, what's the partner roadmap? Okay, I understand what we're doing today with Google, CrowdStrike, Zscaler, Palo Alto. These are some of Apple, these are some of our main partners. Like, I understand what we're doing today. What are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing next month? I want to know what we're going to do a year from now, both from a product perspective or product integration perspective, as well as a marketing perspective, as well as a sales perspective. I want to have that level of visibility, because I want to go deep with these massive partners.
So does the end game change? So if you're thinking about a use case, or what's the best outcome for this partnership, what's the best outcome for the customer, to Gary's point earlier, maybe today it's solving a pain in the market, but tomorrow it's a merger. I don't know. Is it moving like that when you're going deeper, wider, whatever it is? Is it constantly moving?
I would say that's one of our biggest challenges in partnerships, is all the ebbs and flows, right? So you could find a great partner that you go super deep with, and all of a sudden there's an org change, or something in the market changes and there's a different competitive situation going on out there, and you've got to pivot. And you've got to go back to a different way of doing things. And so you've always got to stay on top of and optimize all of these ebbs and flows that you're floating on top of.
That's where AI is going to come in, right? So it's really going to, and I guess talking about a little bit about the technology around it, right? So to date, and I'd say previously, what partner managers had available in order, like what do they do to do their job, right? What they had were kind of like repurposed tools, like kind of like a version of a Salesforce, but for partnerships with few extra features, right? Or a version of Monday.com, but again, just a little bit more targeted, right? And they just had tools where, like, typical SaaS tool, you pay them, you start it, and it's just a blank screen, and you have to enter things. It doesn't actually think for you. It just records and reports on things that are happening or have happened. However, in partnerships, you have to really analyze. And so what we used to do humanly, like a human LLM, is read all the press releases, right? So read all the press releases of our partners and our partners' competitors in order to predict that what's going to happen in the future. A CEO gets fired. Does the CEO best friends or related to the VP of partnerships? And now are we going to get fired, right? So that's where AI thing is going to come in, and I'm hoping more and more technologies are going to come onto market, where a lot of that, you have to have your antennas in so many places, and so much information has to go on, that predictability and information is very important, because partnerships, as good as they are, could also be very, very painful and expensive death to the company, because you don't know that they're failing sometimes until 12 months into entering your resources into that partnership.
Gary, I saw you shaking your head. Was there something that jumped out at you as she was unpacking that?
There was a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a risk in partnerships.
Yeah.
And so how do you a popular word when you go to these conferences, whether you're investing or you're going into a market, de-risk it, right? How do you de-risk a partnership?
Homework. Like
diversification.
Tell me a little bit more. Diversification.
So not putting all your eggs in one basket, and knowing that, okay, these are my primary partners, these are my secondary partners, these are my tertiary partners, and if something happens primary, I'm going to tertiary, and something happens to tertiary, I'm going, to secondary. You're just making yourself more nimble and being able to pivot when change happens, because change is going to be inevitable.
You're like a chess master, Gary. I really see that in you right now. So Ron, from your perspective, how do you de-risk potential partners if they're, just coming on board?
First off, I do want to call it the Delya. You did coin the term human LLM. So I think that's what we
Did
all
I hear
are
that?
now.
Did I just gloss over that? Okay, that wasn't a thing.
You 100% just coined that term. That's what we all are now. AI doesn't exist. The rest of us are just human LLMs. It's like it's diversity. Again, I'm just going to go back to that's why I use the term homework. How do I de-risk? Yes, partnerships take a lot of time, take a lot of effort, especially if you're doing the one-on-one partnerships, not the programmatic. Then you need a lot of proof points. The customers need to be talking about it. The market needs to be ready. The salespeople and the product people need to be lined up. I mean, I was actually having this conversation with somebody on my team just this morning, in fact, where I was saying you got to do a lot of before we sign the paper, before we move forward. You got to do all the consensus building. You got to do all the alignment. Make sure everyone is on board with this thesis, right? The term that we used earlier. It could be long. It could be painful. It could take several months. But once you do that, that's infinitely better than starting a partnership and then 5-6 months into it, a couple of quarters into it, somebody puts their hand up and say, "Hey, I was never consulted. I don't know what's going on here. This is not aligned." And then all that work's thrown out. So it is homework.
Wow. Okay. Well, we're getting close to winding down here, and I want to definitely make sure that Ron and Gary have a chance to not only let our audience know how they can connect with them, but also what would be a home run for you in terms of connecting with our audience. And Gary, I'll kick it off with you. I'm just going to give you this blank canvas.
Sure.
How can people connect with you? And
you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can email me at gary@getthematic.com. Home run for me today, I think, is, we're analyzing a lot of open-ended comments, whether they're coming from surveys or conversations or social media for companies. And we don't collect that information. We just analyze it. And so we need, in our ecosystem of partners, companies upstream that are gathering the data, and we also need companies downstream that are doing something with that data and acting on that data. So if you're one of those types of companies that are upstream or downstream of quantitative analytics around text and using AI, then we're the company for you to reach out to.
Who's your ideal customer profile?
My ideal customer profile. I would say companies above 2 billion with more than 500 or 1,000 or so customers, could be in the United States. There's a hierarchy. There's really not any just sweet spot, but we tend to focus more on financial services and retail, and also in healthcare.
Nice. Ron, how can people connect with you, and what would be a knock it out of the park for you?
Yeah, same. Connect with me on LinkedIn for sure. And then knock it out of the park is just what we were just talking about, empathy and pain. So if you're interested in having a chat, make sure let me know what the pain point is. Let me know what the solution is. Let me know how you're solving it. Let me know what customers are solving it. So you can reach out to me through LinkedIn. Otherwise, we also have our own programmatic way of managing partners, okta.com/partners. Log on to that. You'll get all the information you need.
Nice. Appreciate it. But Delya, I want to thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
We still got a little bit of time. Where are you at with Partner Utopia? I know you're digging in. You're consistent.
Yeah, you're talking about the de-risking, right? So how we started the company is we realized that there are really 3 reasons why partners fail. One, and the biggest one, half of the partners fail is because you pick the wrong partner, like in relationships.
Our
right?
founders,
and
yeah.
then so you picked the wrong one, right? So and then there's the other 2 really kind of took too long to develop it, right? Everybody lost interest or got fired or got changed. And the final one is you got all of those things right, but you just didn't maximize on them, right? You only got 25% of your revenue where you could have gotten 95. But that very first one, you picked you made the wrong bet. We are right now collecting beta, so we actually have a product that we're building specifically for that takes into account how do you make the right bet. If I succeed with this, I'm just taking this straight to Vegas, I think. It's like a gambling tool that we're building, with AI, and we are collecting beta and we want feedback, right? We want feedback on both the output, we want feedback on the whole usability, but that's what we're trying to de-risk the whole partnership, 70% of them fail concept.
Yeah, I think where the value of that's going to come is time, because time is money, and partnerships take a long time to evolve, take a long time to figure out that they aren't going to work. And so if you could speed up that process and fail faster and realize that you got to make a switch sooner and get to the end goal and that's more profitable for you, I think that's going to be a huge benefit.
Yeah. And before we sign off, we got about 50 seconds left. You took a new kind of position with PL, didn't you? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a chapter host here for Partner Leadership. So we'll be hosting events once a quarter. Look out for on my LinkedIn page. I'll be posting it where we're going to be doing it. Hopefully somewhere in Los Gatos. I am going to incorporate some health stuff in it. So it's not just going to be boondoggles, okay? So I'm going to make you do yoga, hiking. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Well, what is partner leadership?
I like the boondoggle version.
Yeah, they'll be added. How about yoga?
Don't kick that down.
Partner Leadership, Asher, and the whole team, thank you so much. It is a community of how the 3 of us met, by the way, because Okta also you guys put on quite a bit of events. It is a community for partnership professionals or anybody who wants to learn about it. Just partnerleadership.com. There is a Slack channel. There's a lot of events that they put together. It's huge. It started with 9 board people during COVID and now has over 3,000 subscribers and I think 10,000 free paid users as well.
I've been involved in other professional associations and it's one of the most well-run ones I've seen.
Nice. Well, Brian, I think we're at time, right? We're doing good?
Yes, we are.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening today. We'll see you all next week. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect with Brian at siliconvalleyimpact.com. That's Brian at siliconvalleyimpact.com. We'll see you all soon. Have a good week.